You've been lied to, not maliciously, not even deliberately, always, but thoroughly. Since boyhood, you've absorbed the myth that women are gentle, nurturing, emotionally driven creatures who long only to be cherished and protected. You were told their love is unconditional, their nature is pure, and your role is to earn their approval by becoming good, kind, and useful. You accepted the script. You played your part, but something never quite added up, did it? You noticed how approval could be withdrawn like oxygen from a room. You watched strong men crumble under the silent judgment of a glance, the indifference of a withheld affection. You saw how desire didn't always follow decency, how the man who sacrificed most was often discarded first. You thought it was an exception, a glitch. You kept trying harder. You didn't realize you were living inside a story designed to keep you compliant, one in which women's instincts are never questioned, and your suffering is blamed on your failure to understand them better. The veil over your eyes wasn't hers. Carl Jung said, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate." The unconscious here is your idealization, your unexamined belief in her goodness, her fragility, her innocence. Schopenhauer was one of the first to rip the veil. In an age of romanticism, he dared to speak of women not as angels, but as evolved beings ruthlessly efficient in securing resources. Cloaked in charm, driven by instincts that men were too noble or too naive to comprehend. He wasn't bitter, it was clear. In clarity, when you've been drowning in delusion, feels like cruelty. Now you stand at the edge of a terrifying realization. She is not who you were told she was. She's far more complex. She's not your enemy, but she isn't your savior. Either she is human, strategic, adaptive, primal, or you can evolve. Because the truth isn't meant to make you resentful. It's meant to make you sovereign. Arthur Schopenhauer didn't whisper, he thundered. His reflections on women were dismissed as misogynistic tantrums by those too fragile to stomach the raw core of his insights. But you aren't here for politeness. You're here to see clearly. Schopenhauer saw through the romantic illusions of his time and ours. He observed that women were not the tender, angelic muses men made them out to be, described them instead as evolution's agents, singularly focused on the survival of offspring, expertly manipulative when necessary, and emotionally calibrated not for truth, but for advantage. This wasn't cruelty, it was biology. System designed by nature, not ethics. What he uncovered was a mirror, not a manifesto. A mirror that shows you what you've refused to see, that much of what you interpret as emotional depth or moral. Superiority is often tactical. Tears can be weapons. Helplessness can be bait. Seduction can camouflage a test of your usefulness. You recoil at this because it breaks your sacred myth, the myth of the good woman, the selfless woman, the one who just loves you for you. But mythology is comfort. Philosophy is fire. Schopenhauer lit that fire to burn away the sentimental fog, and if you listen closely, you realize he wasn't hating women, he was warning men. Warning them not to mistake evolutionary imperatives for virtue, not to expect gratitude for sacrifices that were never requested, not to enter into a rigged negotiation where your value declines with age and hers peaks with deception. Carl Jung picked up the thread Schopenhauer laid down. Where Schopenhauer stripped illusions from women, Jung stripped illusions from you. From the anima, the internal feminine, you project outward and mistake for reality. The fusion of their philosophies becomes your weapon. One shatters her mask. The other shatters your need for it. You begin to see what was always there. Not cruelty, not manipulation, but survival in its most elegant form. Nature with a human face. And once you understand that, you stop pleading for Lavande, start mastering reality. You keep searching for signs of sincerity. A look, a word, a gesture that confirms she really cares for you, not for your income, not for your status, not for your potential, just you. But something always feels conditional. Transactional. as if love comes with a silent ledger. That's because it does. What you call love, she often experiences as security. And security is earned through utility. Evolution didn't program her to seek fairness, it programmed her to seek advantage. Reproduction is costly. Vulnerability is dangerous. Her instincts were forged in fire. How to detect strength, how to discard weakness, how to extract maximum benefit from minimum risk. And it's all subconscious. She doesn't think she's calculating. She feels she's in love or not. You want to believe in unconditional affection. But in her world, conditions are survival. If you're no longer useful, no longer admired, no longer dominant here, no longer seen. It's staticism. It's strategy. One honed over millions of years. The female must be selective. Because one mistake, one weak mate could cost her. Well, lineage everything. This is why you'll notice affection spike when you're winning and vanish when you falter. This is why apologies from high-status men are forgiven while kindness from low-status men is ignored. It's not about good or bad. It's about signal detection. She reads your posture, your tone, your ambition, your ability to command attention in a room. She's not conscious of it. But her instincts are ancient and precise. Jung would call this archetypal. The Great Mother archetype contains both nurturing and devouring faces. She gives life and she withholds it. She seduces and she abandons. The man who sees only the light side is doomed to be devoured by the dark. And you keep asking why she changed, why she stopped showing affection, why she seems cold now. The answer is simple. Your value dropped, or hers rose, or someone else signaled higher dominance. Once you accept that female instincts are ruthless beneath their softness, you stop begging for consistency and start embodying strength. You enter the game thinking it's fair. You give and expect reciprocity. You show loyalty and expect it returned. You assume effort equals reward because that's how your mind is wired. Linear, causal, rational. But her game is not fairness. It's adaptation. You confuse kindness with currency. You believe, the more good you do, the more affection you'll earn. But she's not measuring your effort. She's scanning your leverage, your impact, your ability to alter the emotional weather in the room. Her instincts don't reward effort, they reward dominance, presence, power, protection, provision. You feel betrayed when your commitment is met with coldness. When she says, "You're so good to me," but still pulls away. You wonder what went wrong, but nothing went wrong. You just weren't selected by her deeper circuitry, a part of her brain that whispers, "Can I rely on this man when the world?" Burns Schopenhauer didn't romanticize this dynamic, he exposed it. He saw the male desire for fairness as a tragic flaw, a noble ideal projected onto an indifferent nature, and Jung deepened it. Fairness is a conscious construct. But instincts come from the unconscious, and the unconscious does not care about your sense of justice. She doesn't owe you reciprocation. Nature doesn't owe you symmetry. You've been trained to believe that vulnerability earns intimacy, that honesty earns trust, that being real is what women want. But if being real means confessing weakness, second-guessing yourself, or putting her on a pedestal, then being real will be punished, not rewarded. It's not that she's cruel, it's that you're playing the wrong game. In her world, emotions are tested. Loyalty is tested. You are tested constantly, sometimes invisibly. The shit test isn't a Mehmet's or psyche verifying your stability. When you react with frustration, you fail. When you remain grounded, you pass. It's brutal, but it's real. So ask yourself, are you seeking fairness or are you seeking reality? Because once you realize that fairness is your delusion, not her duties, stop keeping emotional score and start playing for power. You don't see her clearly, never did. What you see is a projection, a silhouette crafted not from her essence, but from the parts of your soul you've disowned. The nurturing you crave, the beauty you worship, the mystery you long to solve. Carl Jung called this the Anima, the inner feminine. She isn't out there, she's in you. But you mistake her for the woman standing in front of you. That's the betrayal, not hers. yours. You loaded her with the emotional weight of your unconscious. You begged her to reflect your worth. You asked her to validate your masculinity, your dreams, your goodness. And when she walked away or withdrew or changed, you blamed her, but she didn't change. Your projection cracked. The Anima isn't just an internal image. She's an energy, force. She wants to seduce you, possess you, pull you inward toward union. But if you remain unaware of her, she'll use the women in your life as screen-shimmering illusions of soulmates, muses, manic pixie temptresses. Every time they disappoint you, you fall deeper into despair. Because it's not just rejection. It feels like soul death. You think she ghosted you? No. You ghosted yourself. Years ago, Schopenhauer spoke less of this. His lens was external, biological, strategic. But Jung forces you to face the mirror. You loved her so much because she carried your missing pieces. And instead of integrating them, you fell in love with them and her. So you write poetry about her. You build altars to her memory. You wonder how she could betray such a deep connection. But here's the truth. She never knew the connection existed, because it was never about her. It was about you, meeting yourself. Through her illusion, this is the trap. Till you reclaim the Anima from projection, you will be her puppet. You will interpret withdrawal as punishment, rejection as annihilation. You will think love is salvation, and heartbreak is a curse. But both are masks. She didn't betray you. Your unexamined psyche did. Individuation begins when you realize the one who needs to return to you is you. She knows something you don't. Time is on your side, but only if you survive her game. It's long enough to realize it. From puberty, her power blooms fast. Attention floods in. Doors open. Men orbit. Her body becomes currency. Her beauty, a blinding signal. She learns quickly subconsciously that value is external, visible, and time-sensitive. She has a window. She must capitalize on it. You, meanwhile, are invisible. You're told to wait, build, earn, prove. Your value is internal, latent, undeveloped. You're not admired for your potential. You're punished for not being finished. No one tells you the truth. Your value increases with time. If you master yourself, but you don't feel that. It's not at 20. Not when she's already outpacing you in social power. She plays fast. You grow slow. This asymmetry creates chaos. She uses her prime years to secure the highest status man she can attract. You use yours chasing validation, unaware that the very attention you're desperate for is a fraction of what will come later if you endure. Schopenhauer saw it. He knew women matured faster, physically and socially, but reached their peak sooner. And he warned that men who tied their identity to female approval in their youth would suffer a bitter inversion in time. By the time he's rising, she's already declining, and if he's unaware, will still pedestal her while ignoring his leverage. Jung would say this is the domain of the archetypal transformation, when a man moves from boy to sovereign, but most never make it. Because most are trapped in youthful fixation. The pretty face, the immediate gratification, the emotional high. She becomes a god, and he becomes her acolyte. But time favors the patient, not the bitter, the patient. Man who builds instead of begs. Who understands that her attention in your 20s is a trap, but her regret in your 30s is your turning point. She fears the clock. You fear rejection. But if you master yourself, she fears your detachment. Far more time is your weapon. Use it. You think she chooses love? You think she chooses you? She doesn't. Not in the way you imagine. What you call choice is biology in disguise. She's not weighing your favorite band or your sense of humor. She's measuring status, competence, genetic strength, social influence. Whether she admits it or not, hypergamy, the instinct to mate upwards, isn't her preference. It's her operating system. You may resent this. You may call it shallow, but it's older than civilization. Hypergamy ensures the survival of the strongest offspring, not the nicest, not the most sincere. The strongest. She is wired to seek the apex. And if you drop in status, she doesn't feel disloyal walking away. She feels unsafe. You fail to understand. You think love is a moral bond. She feels it as a biological alignment. When that alignment breaks, affection vanishes. You tell yourself, she wouldn't do that. She loves me. But her love is conditional on your position in the hierarchy. If you fall, she recalibrates. You don't lose her because she's evil. You lose her because she's optimized. Schopenhauer saw this with brutal clarity. He observed that women are not naturally loyal to the man. They're loyal to the advantages the man provides. As soon as those evaporate, so does the illusion of permanence. This isn't to vilify her, it's to free you. Because if you cling to the belief that your worth guarantees loyalty, you will be blindsided every time. Jung would say you're possessed by an unconscious belief in romantic destiny, a story written by your Anima, not by reality. That's why she may say she wants a nice guy. But her body responds to dominance. That's why she may cry over an ex who mistreated her, but remain numb to the man who would die for her. Her conscious mind wants love. Instincts select power. Hypergamy isn't cruelty, it's calibration. So stop chasing affection with self-abandonment. She doesn't want your devotion. She wants your gravity. Become the man who doesn't need her choice because you've made your own. You thought marriage would protect you. That once you reached that sacred milestone, she'd stay. That vows meant permanence. That legal contracts guaranteed emotional bonds. But the truth is colder and more dangerous. Marriage today is not security for you. It is exposure. A system in which you provide, she chooses, and the law enforces her freedom to leave with compensation. You are bound. She is not. You think you're entering a partnership? She knows she's holding an exit strategy the moment you say I do. You step into a psychological arena where assumptions collapse. You assume commitment. She reserves the right to change her mind legally, emotionally, and sexually. And society tells her she's brave for leaving, tells you you're weak for grieving. Schopenhauer saw the trap centuries ago, called marriage a trap set by nature to secure the continuation of the species. Not romance. Love. A biological contract cloaked in sentimentality. And he noted the moment children are born, the man's role shifts from lover to provider. From passion to obligation, Jung took it further. Marriage isn't just a legal institution, it's a symbolic crucible, a projection of ideals, shadows, unmet needs, and fantasies. The unconscious makes a pact long before the ceremony does. And when those projections collapse, what's left is rarely love, it's strategy. You fear divorce, but what you should fear more is marrying a fantasy. Because once the mask drops, it's not about love, it's about leverage. She holds the power to leave with half your assets, half your time with your children, half your sense of purpose. And society will not ask why only if you're paying on time. This doesn't make her evil. It makes the system indifferent to your suffering. If you walk blindly into that system, clinging to the myth of unconditional love, you aren't entering marriage. You're entering servitude. So you must ask yourself, are you marrying her or the illusion of safety? Because until you confront that question, you'll remain a man begging for permanence in a structure designed to keep you replaceable. You weren't always this hesitant, this uncertain, this quiet in your own body. Once you moved with fire, you believed effort meant progress, that showing love would bring love, that being useful would make you irreplaceable. But now you hesitate before speaking, you tiptoe around emotion, you second-guess every instinct. Why? Because you've been trained slowly and visibly to fear your own masculine power. This is learned helplessness, a condition of the psyche, where repeated failure, rejection, or confusion convinces you that agency is dangerous, that desire is selfish, strength is violence. So you dim your light, thinking it will make her love you more. It does the opposite. You were taught by media, culture, sometimes even your own mother, that compliance is virtue, that masculinity must be tamed, that sensitivity is superior to sovereignty. And so you offered softness where you should have drawn a boundary. You apologized for needs. You replaced conviction with compromise. And over time, you collapsed into a shadow of yourself, Schopenhauer wouldn't be surprised. He saw how culture molds men into providers, servants of reproductive machinery. You become useful to the system, but disposable to the woman. Once you've outlived your purpose, your pain becomes invisible. Jung understood the deeper cost. When a man denies his true nature to maintain connection, he fragments his soul. The Anima masculine core rots under layers of passivity and guilt. You become docile, safe, and utterly unattractive. This is why she loses interest. Not because you're unkind, because you no longer radiate sovereignty. You become predictable, over-accommodating, spiritually neutered. And she can't respect what you've allowed yourself to become. You think being agreeable will. Keep her, it won't. She tests you to find your edge, not your obedience. She wants to feel your gravity, not your guilt. You wonder why she stopped admiring you? But deep down, you know why? Because you stopped admiring yourself. And no woman can compensate for a man who's abandoned his own fire. You can't change her, can't rewire her instincts, soften her hypergamy, or legislate her loyalty. You can't negotiate with biology. And the more you try, the more you lose yourself. But there is a way out, and it begins, not with control, but with individuata. Individuata is not detachment. It is integration. Jung described it as the process of becoming whole, reclaiming the lost fragments of your psyche, the exiled masculine, the disowned hunger, the sacred aggression, the suppressed authority. Everything you projected onto her, you must now reclaim. You gave her your fire and begged her to warm you. You handed her your soul and asked her to complete you. When she left, you felt robbed. But the truth is, she only ever borrowed what was yours all along. Now you take it back, not with rage, but with clarity. The exit isn't about becoming cold. It's about becoming real. You stop expecting her to save you. You stop demanding fairness from a system that was never built for your benefit. Stop living as a man defined by rejection and start living as one defined by purpose. She will. Feel the shift. The woman who once ghosted you may now glance again. But you don't need her glance. You have become sovereign. And in that sovereignty, you are no longer addicted to her approval or anyone's. Schopenhauer gave you the red pill. Jung gives you the mirror, and now you use both. Because the man who reclaims his anima, his time, and his power becomes untouchable. Not because women won't test him, but because he no longer fears the test. You've exited the illusion. You've stepped off the stage. And from this vantage point, you no longer play roles. You write them. You are no longer the boy chasing affection through performance. You are no longer the man begging for a woman to love you in exchange for obedience. You are a sovereign psyche, reclaiming every piece you once outsourced to the feminine. The journey ahead isn't about avoiding women. It's about seeing clearly, about engaging not from hunger, but from wholeness. Because when you no longer fear abandonment, betrayal, or rejection, you become immune to manipulation. Not cynical, conscious. This is what individuation demands. Ruthless self-honesty, the death of fantasy, the rise of strategic awareness. You are not here to be chosen. You are here to choose. Choose who you become. Choose what you accept. Choose how far you're willing to go to retrieve your authentic self from the wreckage of projection. That's how you exit the lie. That's how you become free. If this opened your eyes, don't keep it to yourself. Share it, comment, speak the truth that no one else will. Because there are men out there drowning in illusions, begging for crumbs, collapsing under the weight of their own unconscious. They need this clarity, and so do you. Like, comment, share. Become the mirror that breaks the spell.